Welcome back to Coordinating Clinical Trials. My name is Steve Pope, and this week we're going to be talking about working with contract research organizations, or CROs as they're known. So those of you who are in the local area here in North Carolina are going to be very familiar with some of these companies because a lot of them are headquartered or have major operations right here in our local community. So these are companies that provide support to pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and medical device industries, and they normally offer a wide range of services to support the development and approval of new drugs and medical devices. So these services can include clinical trial management, data management, regulatory affairs, biostatistics, medical writing, and a whole lot more. So we're going to go over some of these as we move along in today's lesson. Let's look at our learning objectives. So we're going to discuss the structure of a CRO. We're going to cite the services that CROs provide. We're going to define the benefits of using CROs in clinical research. We're going to practice relationship building between site staff and CRO staff. And then finally, we're going to identify who the major CROs are. So let's talk about the structures of CROs. Let's first of all, we want to know that these are corporate entities, so they have a corporate hierarchy. They've got functional areas like finance and information technology, operations, HR, etc. They also have managerial layers. So you've got middle managers, you've got executive level managers in the organization, and some of these organizations are very large. Some of the in the billions of dollars of annual revenue. You also have financial analysis associated with these CROs. So that means they're going to be paying attention to things like billable hours worked and statements of work, contracted rates, things like that. And then finally, you've got shareholder interest. These are for-profit corporations, so they're beholden to shareholders, and that drives some of their decision making. They have to account for profit and loss, for instance, and maintaining margins and things like that. So as far as the services that CROs offer, probably the primary service they offer is clinical trial management services. So that means they can take a clinical protocol and a collection of sites and start to put those sites through their study startup process to get them to the point where they can be activated to conduct the clinical trial for the sponsor. They also offer regulatory affairs services as well, certainly for things like submitting new drug applications and other submissions to FDA. They can offer data management and biostatistics services. These might include maintaining the clinical database, also setting up the statistical models that we're going to use to analyze our data with and use that as the premise for our submission to regulatory authorities. They also offer medical writing services. These might include submissions data, might include doing investigators, brochures, things like that. And then finally, they offer quality assurance, which could include auditing, could include maintaining the overall quality perspective of your trial. So there's a number of services that they offer. They try to partner with pharma companies and biotechnology companies to make sure that their trials are conducted in a professional manner and meet all the regulatory requirements that are necessary in order to win approval to market the product. So in most cases, the bulk of the service that the CRO offers is in the clinical trial management area. So this includes planning and conducting clinical trials. This could be in phases 1 through 4. It would also include recruiting patients. It would include selecting and managing clinical sites, putting them through the study startup process so that they can be activated to conduct the trial. And then once they're activated, then monitoring and reporting the clinical trial data back to the sponsor. Sponsors are required to monitor the activities of sites that conduct their trials, and this is a major portion of what CROs do, is the act of monitoring the activities of clinical sites. So another area of service with CROs is in the regulatory affairs area. So this could include preparing and submitting regulatory documents, also ensuring the compliance with regulatory requirements. This could mean various jurisdictions around the world, could be specifically for FDA, or could be for the European Medicines Agency. They also provide liaison services with regulatory agencies. So normally in the clinical trials process, there's a lot of back and forth between regulators and the pharma company in terms of what the objectives are going to be and whether or not the pharma company can meet those milestones. So the CRO can offer some liaison services and expertise in that area that can be very beneficial to the sponsor company. Another service is data management and biostatistics. So this would include collecting, managing, and analyzing clinical trial data. So what that means is as you set up the clinical trial database, otherwise known as the clinical database, you'd be setting up how you're going to clean and how you're going to ensure that data is as accurate as possible. So that would mean doing the daily tasks of issuing queries to sites to clarify certain data where there might be data conflicts that arise. Can also mean setting up the way in which you're going to analyze that data. Also included in that is developing the statistical analysis plan. That's usually something that occurs before the trial ever begins, to determine what type of statistical tools you're going to use to analyze the data and what you anticipate the findings to be. And then finally, interpreting and reporting statistical findings. This could be the tables and data sets that are created that are going to support the regulatory filing when you go for a submission, so that you can get your product approved for marketing. So all of these functions would apply in the data management and biostatistics area. And this is a pretty large area, service area for CROs. Another area is medical writing. This would include writing clinical study reports, which are the reports that are the sponsor is required to do at the end of the trial to determine. It's going to summarize what the elements of the trial were and what the findings were. Also, regulatory submissions that might go to FDA. It also could include scientific publications. So there could be a number of areas in the medical writing area where the CRO can assist the sponsor in these areas. Also developing patient information leaflets and informed consent forms. These could be other examples of medical writing services that the CRO can provide. Then finally, the quality assurance area. This would mean ensuring the adherence to good clinical practice guidelines. We've already started learning about some of those. And the way you do this is to conduct audits and quality checks along the way. So these could be audits of the sites, could be audits of, say, pharmacies or any other vendor that might be involved in the trial. The CRO can offer services in that area, and this might be areas of expertise that the sponsor itself, may be lacking in, may not have a whole lot of capability in that area, and they want to buy that expertise from the CRO. So let's take a look at the benefits of working with CROs, and I'm going to expand on these as we go along. So essentially, access to expertise and experience is a major benefit. CROs can offer a lot of cost efficiency that's very beneficial to pharma companies. There's a certain time savings element that I'll get into. Flexibility is very important, and that's something that pharma companies can take advantage of. And then finally, access to advanced technologies is something that is becoming more and more an attractive benefit to working with CROs. So first, let's talk about expertise and experience. So CROs possess a specialized knowledge and experience in managing clinical trials and navigating the regulatory process. What that means is that the industry really began back in the early 80s when pharma companies started to use CROs to manage the clinical trials that they were conducting. So as a result of that, what happened is that many of the pharma companies, they started to shed some of the resources they had in staff and other expertise that were being used to manage and conduct clinical trials. And so many of those resources wound up going to work at CROs. So CROs began to grow at that point to become these very large companies and to develop that expertise across a wide area of different types of trials. So as a result of that, they developed a lot of expertise and experience that's now very beneficial to pharma companies, and in particular to the smaller biotech companies that in many cases would never have accumulated that expertise if they were to have done that organically. Another benefit is cost efficiency. So outsourcing research and development activities, which includes the conduct of clinical trials, can be a lot more cost effective for the sponsor company than maintaining that capability in-house. It becomes a more flexible opportunity for them to take advantage of the experience from a CRO than it would be if they were trying to grow that expertise in-house. Another benefit is time savings. So CROs can accelerate the drug development process by leveraging their established processes and networks. This might mean taking advantage of a site network. Many CROs try to develop databases with various sites around the country and around the world, and to identify sites that have expertise in certain therapeutic areas. What this does, it enables them to put together a list of potential sites to conduct the trial very quickly, and that's something that a pharma company would be very interested in. Many pharma companies, the larger ones at least, maintain their own site networks, but in some cases they may need help in that area, and they may need access to networks that the CRO has. So flexibility is a major benefit as well. So one of the things that pharma companies really like about working with CROs is this sort of flexible work arrangement where they can take advantage of more services when needed without having to increase their own internal headcount of employees. So that's very beneficial because the CRO can engage its resources across specific projects and phases of development, and that allows for better resourcing allocation so that there's a smoother exchange of work product, and that's beneficial to the pharma company. So it's also beneficial to the CRO as well, because if they've got say specialty expertise in one or two areas, they can leverage that across multiple clients. Whereas in the case that if a pharma company were to try to employ that person on their staff, they probably wouldn't have enough, wouldn't be able to justify that. So working with a CRO makes it easier and more flexible for them to do so. So one area that's becoming more and more attractive about CROs is their access to advanced technologies. Because these CROs are becoming larger companies, they're able to invest in what the latest technologies are and methodologies in our industry, and they can leverage that cost across multiple projects, so it makes it much more cost effective for them to do so. Now what that means is that if they've got access to a certain expensive piece of technology, it makes it more advantageous for the pharma company to engage with the CRO so they can also get access and use that same technology. For instance, in the data management area, this is one area where technology is becoming more and more rapidly used and rapidly changing, and having access to that is very beneficial for pharma companies. So let's take a look at who the top CROs are. Some of these companies you're going to be familiar with. Some of them you may not be. The first on the list is IQVIA. IQVIA was formerly known as Quintiles and was based in Durham, North Carolina. Annual revenue in 2023 was nearly $15 billion. So this is a very large company, and really probably the largest in our industry. LabCorp is another company that you're familiar with. It includes an acquisition of Covance back in 2015. You may be familiar with LabCorp as the lab services company, but they also conduct a lot of clinical trials, and they offer services in that area. Another large company is Parexel. They were recently in 2021 acquired by EQT, private equity company, and by Goldman Sachs for $8.5 billion. So once again, they're a very large organization. Icon, which is my employer, they have annual revenue of $8.1 billion in 2023, and that also includes revenue from an acquisition of PRA Health Sciences back in 2021. So Icon has quickly become one of the larger CROs by virtue of that. PPD, which was acquired by Thermo Fisher Scientific in 2021, has annual revenue of $17.4 billion. So it's interesting to note that the founder of PPD and the founder of IQVIA both came out of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And in fact, the School of Pharmacy and the School of Public Health are named after those two founders. So these two companies have become among the largest CROs in the world with billions of dollars of revenue annually. So continuing on with our top CROs, we have Syneos Health, which is a company you probably have heard of and may be familiar with. It was acquired by private investment firms Elliott Investment Management, Patient Square Capital, and Veritas Capital for $7.1 billion in 2023. So that was fairly recently. So it in and of itself is a very large company. Also, Charles River Laboratories, known for drug discovery and early stage development. A couple of other lesser known CROs would be MedPace, which is a full service contract research organization, Wuxi AppTech, which is based in China, and then finally Worldwide Clinical Trials, which is a large company that's US based that provides services, CRO services to pharma companies. So I've got some reading assignments for you to go over this week. This is going to amplify and augment what I've gone over in this lecture. Each of these is designed to kind of give you a glimpse of maybe one or two different sections of the CRO industry and kind of how it fits together, and what we're doing, and kind of the services that they offer and the role they play in our clinical research ecosystem. So I'd like you to take a look at those, read each one, give me your feedback if you like, and I think you'll enjoy that and get a lot out of it. So finally, for your discussion forum assignment for this week, this is a good real world assignment for you, one that you are probably going to be engaged in at some point in your work as a clinical research coordinator. So you're a clinical research coordinator at a large academic medical center working on a clinical trial for a new treatment of asthma. So the sponsor of the study is a small biotechnology company who is working with a CRO to conduct the study. So prior to a planned data lock, your monitor, who's an employee of the CRO, contacts you and requests that all data queries be answered immediately within 24 hours in order for the sponsor to complete their planned data lock. So you look up the number of queries you've got and you discover that you have 29 unanswered data queries. So how do you respond to the monitor? Describe your response using fewer than 200 words, and then post that into the discussion forum. So as you work on this, bear in mind that this is very likely not the only trial that you're working on, and I want you to address, how you would handle this. That's there's a time component there that you need to be aware of, and also the amount of work coming up with answering 29 data queries. So take a look at that. Give me what your response is, and I'll look for those online.